Oh my goodness. Wow. There I am, full screen. Hi, my name's Ryan Erickson. I'm here, this little show, this place where you are, wherever you are, and whenever you are. It's called Riffing with Ryan. My wife made this lovely little shirt for me that has that on there. Um, that makes me feel good. I don't know if it'll make you feel good. I hope you feel good where you are, whenever you are. I am here today with um, a person who, dare I say, I love him. I love his work, and I love what he does for my favorite place in the world, Cincinnati, Ohio, which is where we are both here now. Um, the gentleman does not need much more introduction than that. Um, his name is Peter Block, and he's now on the screen with me. Hi, Peter.
Hi, Ryan. Thank you for inviting me into this, whatever it's going to be.
Exactly. Let us call it an open space for the moment. It will be open for however long it's open. Um, so thank you for being here. I doubt that there's anyone who doesn't really know who you are and why you're here on the planet and what you mean to Cincinnati and the world of organization development. My first thought, just to kind of connect us here, is what are you feeling in the moment right now in the place where you are?
Well, it's like people asking me, how am I doing? I don't know whether to say fine or talk for 3 hours. And I try to find a place in between. I feel we have as much control over our lives as we ever did. At a personal level, I'm old and I'm healthy. And so every time I start whining, I remind myself that I have everything that matters. And I don't know, I'm grateful that there's work that I still care about and I can be with moments like this. So I feel grateful. And as far as the larger world, it scares me to death, literally. I've never been alive in a moment like this, and I do not understand it. I don't think we have a category. And here we are. And I think what we're doing is needed more than ever. And whether it works or not, too early to tell.
Whether it works or not. Um, One of the first things I read of yours was the answer to how is yes, and that you said, well, how does it work? Well, isn't it more important to talk about what matters than what works? And that's the title of the episode here is, why community matters. And when I called you to come in here and play with me, was I want to know here and now, in this moment, like you said, um, why does community matter to you?
I have come to understand that for all the commons that we care about, including raising a child, or my being safe in my neighborhood, or my being healthy, or my making a living, or my caring about people that are vulnerable, or the planet, our sense of community, trust, social capital is a major determinant of our well being, period. And community doesn't mean I'm caring about my neighborhood, it means I trust my neighbors. And I feel that whoever is in my neighborhood, we have the capacity to answer all those questions. And I no longer believe in outsourcing responsibility for things that matter, my health, my safety, my children. I really believe that's in our collective capacity. And I just revised the community book for the third time. And it's that clarity that had me reread the book and sharpen it up.
Oh, okay. So rereading the book, when you reread the book, what came to you? What struck you as being missing?
Nothing. It was just too wordy. You know, if you don't understand what you're writing about, it takes 3 times the number of words. Now, some of it made the ideas current. Like you have to talk about a virtual world, it wasn't in there, and you have to talk about democracy's vulnerability, which wasn't in there. But mostly, it was me just making it easier. You get nervous when you reread a book, but I always find that I didn't say anything I still don't believe in. I just didn't know what I was talking about.
The Sandy thing?
The what?
Well, the sanity thing, which I didn't quite hear you.
No, I'm just saying that I didn't know what I was talking about. So now I am clear that my trust in neighbors and trying to make things better is more important than I ever realized. And so, if you whatever you want to talk about that matters, the planet, for example, uh, I can look to Cincinnati Nature Center, and they have 17,000 members, and they educate. And I know that without me and my neighbors in my neighborhood caring about the land, uh, nothing they do is going to matter, except they do a great job of educating people.
Mm.
But the message there is that if you come to our thousands of acres and experience the forest and the beauty and take classes, the planet will be better served. And I love what they do and who they are, but the planet will be better served when you and I decide to do something about it.
When you and I decide something to do about it, the you and I part is the part, the connection part, connecting you and me and us into the place where we are. And once we're connected, then connected, we care about the place. I love this. I'm connected to you. And then comes a little bit of the sticky part about what now what do we come to agreement on about what is that thing we wish to do with this place.
Exactly.
And that's um, that's kind of what is now, if we embody the book, right? If the reader creates the book, if I'm creating the book in this place, right, we've created community. Okay, all right, Peter, you're down in Clifton, I'm here in Woodlawn. What do we do with this place?
Well, there's not much you and I can do, but I have 8,500 neighbors in Clifton. So I take place very literally. Not Cincinnati is too big. I've tried touching the city and I can't reach it. But I have 8,500 neighbors, and I can decide that I will create in this neighborhood. At least I put my effort in it. Half the stuff's not successful. The world I want to inhabit. So it's really neighborliness, okay? Because that's to me, the path forward is to say, well, and then it's easy for me to meet with my neighbors and say, what do you care about? And what can we do about that? There's nothing to argue about. I'm glad they have a different perspective. But once we agree that we care about the Burnett Woods, and they're going to want to take a half acre of land and spend $400,000 for a dog park for about 30 people. Well, let's do what we can to stop the dog park. Now, we failed. We couldn't stop it. But it was worth doing.
So talking about the powers that have been placed in place, the institutions that happen, that the city councils and all this stuff that they sit on their board and they decide, oh, we have something in mind for you. And we have a dog park in mind for you. Because we, like in the city council, we love dogs. I have a dog, you have a dog. Everyone will like a dog park. So we have some money, we're gonna build the dog park. But what has not happened is it's already set. It's already a possibility. I'm going to impose upon you, and the the voice of the citizens in the place is not
Powerful.
accounted for.
Right.
So what we have done a convening here in town, locally in the neighborhood, and have this great energy around these ideas that happened, and the the possibility that I saw there, and that I'm hoping is a pattern. Let's set an agenda for the city council, for the planning commission. Let's don't wait for them to say what they have in mind for us. Why don't we inform them what we have in mind for us, and hire them to support us? Is that so? What's so hard about that?
That's why the answer to how is yes. Will that matter if we meet with city council and tell them we do not want a hotel in my neighborhood? So just, I do not want a dog park. They may or may not listen. And so half of the things we do with social capital may not work, but it changes our well-being. The fact that we got together on that dog park means that my health will be better. That if people engage in volunteer social work, social oriented work in their neighborhood, they live a year or two longer. If I trust my neighborhood is safer. There may be nothing we can do to influence the city council's mind, and most of the time we can't. But in the effort, there are parallel benefits that come from the effort itself, even if the outcome didn't work. That's what's complicated. Community is our trust in each other and our efforts to make the place better. Now, does it work all the time? No. It does, but the point is that in our effort to make the place better, we are better off, regardless of what city council does, regardless if they want to build a soccer stadium, what used to be a black historic neighborhood. I know that I and the 30 people that engaged with each other around the dog park trust each other. Whatever else comes up, we have each other. And I know, based on a lot of Putnam's research, that if we do that, I will be healthier just because I made the effort. My children will be better off and do better in school just because their parents made the effort. And that's what's so elusive about this idea of community. It's done for its own sake. And, you know, the empire will decide what it wants to do, but I'm safer in my neighborhood because 6 of us decided to do something about a dog park that failed. And now when I see something going on in my neighbor's house, I do something about it. Okay, 2 doors down in the freeze, the ice broke the piping. And 1 door down, he comes to me and says, Peter, do you know who lives in that house? I say, yeah, I do. Can you do something about it? I say, yes, I will. So I called Laura across the street and up the street. I said, Laura, you know Scott, who lives there. And she says, yeah, he's in Florida now. I said, could you call him and let's do something about that ice? She says, I will. And 20 minutes later, the water department came out and shut the water off because my neighbor, Scott, who owns the house, Laura, who's up the street, knew each other well enough to fix that. That's the point.
Well, it didn't really matter whether you and Scott and Laura um, voted for the same man, woman in November, and it mattered that you live in that place, you care about the place, and you've spent the time to invest in each other to to make a better place, to create a better place.
Well, and it happens, you know, Laura loves a clean sidewalk. So she gets out and knocks on our door and says, you mind if I clean your sidewalk? No. And you're right. Why argue about things that don't mean anything and not within our power? So I never asked Laura who she voted for. I was with somebody Saturday. The guy, we started talking, and he's, you know, it's Ramadan now. And he went on and on about his views about immigrants and et cetera, et cetera. And I said, thank you. All those conversations don't take me anywhere. And I'm interested, but I can argue if I want, but then what's the point? Self-expression, do it. But when that piping was broken down the street, we did something about it. It took 25 minutes, including the city. That's my well-being is more about my houseworking than arguing about the vote. And I'm trying to, you know, the empire exists everywhere. Like during the campaign in November, I know some people running for office. And I said, would you be willing during your campaign stops, instead of selling the cliches, what we stand for, break people into small groups and ask them the question for the things they care most about. How can you support them as a councilman? And they say, you can't do that. Why can't you do it? Well, it's just not done that way. And I think part of it is giving our attention about things that we have some, and most things I do have some control over. I can run for office in my neighborhood, and I did. Now, I was on council for 6 years.
Wow.
And mostly I learned to keep my mouth shut because my opinions most of the time didn't matter. But I was there, and what it gave me was an understanding of my neighborhood. I got the backstory of my neighborhood. Did we decide anything? No. We take stances, we send letters. We spend money, but not much. And so, but I feel this is my neighborhood now. And sometimes we got into arguments or people didn't like what I did. One woman said, Peter, you wrote the book on community. You're awful. You don't believe in community. You voted against me. Okay?
Okay.
What do I do with that?
Oh, thank you. Tell me more.
Well, I didn't. I walked away before I said But there's an agency in my knowing my neighbors, even though they see the world differently than I do. And when I've said this many times, when I saw her in the grocery store, I have to decide who am I and what do I want to do. And I would go and say hi and go about my business. And I think what we're trying to do is help people feel they're agents for the place that they care most about. Does it work? I don't know. The least powerful thing I do is, you know, I like protests. I believe in them. I join in them. But they're not very powerful. I'm waiting for the transformation of council. I'm waiting for the transformation of, it's a tough wait. it's
You
worth
know,
doing. I feel the vote is good for damage control, but most of anyway, that's my.
it's a lagging indicator of, oh, I didn't like what you've done in the Reds or Blues for nary
Right.
on 300 years. Who knows? And the that you mentioned the agency, right? So reclaiming your agency, not purchasing your well-being from somebody else. Somebody else has something in mind for you, and because that's convenient. That's very convenient. It's easy for me to delegate my responsibility to someone else and say, make my neighborhood safe. I'm I'm paying you with my vote to make the neighborhood safe, to educate my children, to babysit them for however long, and so they are off of my mind. And what what that tells me, that what you're talking about and what you talk about in the book, the 6 conversations, that's the first one is the invitation, and the invitation, who do I invite, who's invited, who's here, who cares, and I put that invitation out. But the invitation to be with each other as a group, it's not the easiest one to accept. And the the thing that came to me when I was thinking about invitation was Shackleton's invitation you talked about. Is low pay, horrible climate, safe return doubtful. Who's with me? So that is awkward. It's inconvenient. It's why the hell would I want to do that?
And this was in England. I don't know when that was, last century. He wanted to take a trip to Antarctica, safe return doubtful. And he put it in the paper. He got 5,000 people said, I'd like to do it. And so I think that's what was stunning to me is, and I think you're using a powerful word, which is inconvenient. Uh, and I think the major obstacle to building community, to building social capital, to withdrawing are is it's very inconvenient. That the selling point for the consumer culture is, well, and it began with a convenience store. So now I didn't have to ask my neighbor to borrow sugar. I could go to a store for convenience.
Mhm.
And so the biggest resistance people have to say, why don't we buy local? Why don't we keep the dollars circulating within my neighborhood, which has enormous social power, is it's inconvenient. They don't carry what I want. Well, maybe you could live without it. No, are you kidding? I need that tool. I need that jacket. I need that this or that. And so that it's dawning on me that the biggest obstacle to building social capital and community that has its own well-being is it's very inconvenient.
Mm.
And so be it. And you do it anyway.
Yeah.
And being healthy is extremely inconvenient. And progress is so slow I can hardly notice it. And every day I have these vitamins I'm supposed to take, and I grumble when I stuck these things in my mouth and can't swallow them. And this is what we're inviting people into. If you care about community, uh, have your house parties, close the street, have a festival. But day to day, we have to decide to support what's in reach with our voting with our dollars. And
Mhm.
in terms of my health, 15% of my health is part of the healthcare industry. Most of it's from someplace else. It's genetic. It's blue zone care. It's involved. I have a friend who's a heart surgeon. He says the one thing people can do to keep from having repeat surgery on their heart is to engage with other people in a 6-person discussion once a month about how they're doing and managing. So inconvenience, slow.
Yeah. Connection is slow. It's slow, inconvenient, inefficient, and sometimes awkward. It's awkward. Why do I want to be awkward? These I'm okay. Well, I'm okay being awkward. And
What we do, if I can interrupt you,
oh, go ahead, please.
is the book offers accelerated connection. It doesn't take, if I wait to be for dinner parties and street festivals and coffees, it takes weeks, months. If I'm in a small group and ask people what's the crossroads you're at this stage of your life, I trust those people a lot after 12 minutes. And that's what we're doing here, and it's hard even to do that, but it works. A developer wanted to develop and these condominiums, people angry. You can't. What are you doing? That used to be a grocery store. Those are homes, and they're mad at him. And I went to him and I said, Dave, how about if we hold a meeting and you don't wear suits and you stop telling people how much you spent to work on the plans for the thing? He said, okay. We did. So 80 people got together, small groups. When did you first start caring about this neighborhood? What's the crossroads you're at in terms of development? What concerns do you have about this development? They said, well, we want an Asian place. We want a setback from the street, and we want it no more than 52 feet high, so it reflects the neighborhood. And Dave heard that. He said, I can do those things. Thank you. In 1 hour, the anger went away.
And it happened before all the decisions were made. You didn't have to wait. You didn't have to wait for someone else to convene something and depend on their authority. You were in the place. You have the convening authority to say, come here if you care about what's happening here. We have an opportunity to create the future we wish to inhabit.
Yeah. Yes. And sometimes it works. It did then. Sometimes it doesn't. But, we're so organized to argue. The post office wanted to move the post office 1 block away. And they say, could you organize a community meeting so 30 people show up? And the post office starts selling. Here's why we have to do it. It's not going to cost you anything. And I said, wait a second. I went to 30 people. I said, how many people are okay with them moving the post office? Everybody raised their hand. And I said, so you don't have to sell us anything. Tell us what you're going to do. And so it shifts the conversation from, anyway, you know what I'm saying. Yeah. It's hard to do. It's hard to, sometimes you get people together and they don't want to, the answer is no. But even in the getting together, even when there's a neighborhood event, let's say we're going to have an event at the park, the people who plan that event, our lives are changed. And so that's how is this sounding to you? Unrealistic, naive, foolish, irresponsible? So be it.
Yeah, we'll do it anyway.
You do it because you're trying to shift the narrative about who's in charge. This is an exodus. We're trying to depart the colonial narrative that only they can decide what's best for us.
Yeah,
that's what's at stake. And it's not resistance as much as it is departure.
And that energy to go into the wilderness, right? We talked about that empire in the wilderness, and
In Exodus.
that's it's Exodus, right? So and this comes to Walter Brueggemann's work. This is the prophetic imagination, and that the two parts of that are you do critique the empire. Yes, say the empire that that's not that's not the way. It's BS, whatever. But then there's the other part that I think it's left out is the hope, is the energizing hope. The prophetic vision is about the energization of hope. And okay, there's hope, and you what about the six conversations are this way? It is the tool to allow that hope to happen. I'm going to declare what is the future I wish to inhabit. You and I wish to inhabit in the wilderness together, because being in the wilderness is not easy. This safe return doubtful. But I'm going to, well, let's name the possibility. Let's enter the possibility, inhabit that, take ownership for what we have part of that, um, and have a conversation about this descent. What am I doing? Did I really mean that when I
Yeah,
wanted to
Ryan, you
mean?
understand this better than I do. I should be interviewing you. Can we reverse roles here?
Well, so here's, well, sure, why not? I'll do it. Al Jarreau would say, "We're in this love together." It's about love, isn't it?
Well, yeah, but the part of the narrative is that it's up to me. So if I go to church, they urge me to realize that God has my side. But they also might say, is it also the people sitting next to you, if I have your interests at heart, and you can be held by them also. And so we're trying to shift the focus from what I like the message. I believe in working on myself. I believe that I have the choice about what kind of life, what kind of health, what kind of being I want to be. But what we're doing with the community conversation, the social capital, is saying that we need to look laterally in addition to looking inwardly. Now, the dominant narrative wants me to look up and say council, president, Congress, elected officials, corporations, wake up, save the planet, restore democracy.
You do it.
Well, that's useful, but it's not enough. I need to look at you. I need to look in your eyes, Ryan, and say whatever I'm looking for, I'll find it in some form or another with the people that care about a place. And something shifts in my well-being, our well-being, when we have that attitude, even if we don't get what we want.
Mm-hmm.
With the dog park, they have a hearing. And there's about 50 people, get 2 minutes each. You sign up. And it dawned on me, everybody there was against the dog park. And I asked the question, I said, where are the people in favor of the dog park? Well, they didn't have to come to a hearing because they had dinner with the park commission. That's the world, but it was worth showing up because, people I knew were in the room, and there's something useful about citizens, even if what they do is futile. And then, like I said before, the outcomes are enormous. Now, they have something now called social prescribing. And so in England, the healthcare realizes that doctors prescribing medicine to citizens is only part of their function. And now they talk to the citizen, talk to their patients, and say, what do you like to do? And they write a prescription for what groups they should volunteer to support. because they know if people give 100 hours a year to a cause outside their family, they live 2 years long.
Mm.
And
And
you'll never hear that story unless you look for it. So the other thing we're trying to do is change the nature of the newsroom and say, why don't we report on that as news that's as urgent and as important as what council voted on yesterday?
this brings me right into the here and now of what's happening with the book, and B, what's going to happen here in May. Because I know you're talking with Peter Pula, a journalist, some generative journalism, Charles Holmes, and working on this thing in Cincinnati about connecting for the common good and bringing. I would like you to say a little bit more about that and what's the declaration of possibility that you're naming for us here in May. Who everybody's invited to fly here, please.
Yeah. So the meaning is that there are people that are connectors. You're one, Ryan, just by their nature. And why don't we treat connecting as more important than leadership? Why don't we say that the way the world changes, the way institutions get better, is when peers decide to trust each other and make this thing work? Where all of our attention now is on the corner office and the boss. So I want to shift my attention to people who are connectors. And I want to launch the notion that connecting for the common good is more powerful than running for office. So we're gathering to launch this movement effort in Cincinnati, bring 100, 150 people together who are connectors. And we're not teaching connecting. We're saying, why don't we decide how to create impact and continuity from the fact you're connectors? And why don't we tell the story? So part of what we're doing is having a newsroom. And so everybody coming will be interviewed. We're going to have people learn to tell each other's stories, and we're collecting stories. And then we have connections with some newspapers. And we say, we're going to provide stories for you. It's not going to cost you anything, but it's about what connectors are doing to build a creative economy. Mm-hmm. Surrounded by the market economy. The creative economy means that everything that matters most to me, we are producing now. It's just not that monetized. And so we don't find it interesting. All we measure is the monetization of our culture. Dow Jones. So we're trying to say, well, why don't we measure trust? Why don't we measure belonging? Why don't we measure things you're doing to make the place better? So this May, and you're all invited, okay, is to begin to us to learn how do we make the creative economy the center of our attention, and how do we honor and build the idea that connectors produce much of what matters most to us. So we're trying to reestablish connectors as central to our common good.
So that's good luck. Yeah, well, safe return doubtful, but this connects the idea, what design learning has been all about for a long time. This is leader as convener, right? So leader as convener, okay, you have to have convening authority to get people to show up. If nobody shows up, nobody cares, nobody shows up.
Somebody always shows up.
Right.
3 people show up.
Well,
enough.
And okay, so we are here, and okay, let's reclaim control of our collective well-being here. Let's write a new story. Let's figure out, there's a how in here somewhere.
Yes.
You mentioned measurement. I wanted to go back to measurement for a second, because that one of the things I learned from you in the book, but that there are people, the GDP is not the Bible. There are other ways to measure, all measuring, geeks out there, you can measure well-being, right? This is Mark Anielski has talked about that. This is the measurement of well-being. And you don't have to measure scale and money and consumption and all that stuff, or wealth accumulation. Beautiful. You have some, let's accumulate. But what matters is like what you said about the people in Clifton coming together is our well-being. And how do you connect the lovely feelings of well-being to actually, we can say the well-being here. We can articulate it and invite people into that. That was really powerful to me. That struck me about a possibility that not only can we change the story, but we can change the numbers. We can change
Well, we
that.
decide which numbers matter. Because
Yes.
right now, the way we label each other is in support of the market economy. And so we have names for each other. Every city talks about homeless people. Well, that's not who they are.
Mm.
All right. And so we measure people by average annual income. That's not who they are. We call neighborhoods, poor, poverty. It's not who they are. There is life. There is a creative economy within every square block in a city. And there are people who are generous, who care for each other, have all the human qualities that you look for. It's just that we see them as if they're broken. How about if we see now, should we do something about poverty? Absolutely. But let's stop calling it poverty. There was a time when being poor was honorable. You're called a peasant. So what? And so, with the help of friends, Darren Peterson, we call people socially and economically isolated. If I call them isolated, I know what to do is get them connect, invite them in. If I call them poor, I create a war on poverty, which didn't work. Does it help? Yes. Does it work? No. And so that's the shift in thinking, and you're so clear about it, Ron. You understand it so beautifully. And but let's change the measures that have to do with who people really are. We started a center for urban youth. Nobody knows what to do with them, 14 to 24-year-old. We said, what do you love to do? They said, hip hop. And so we didn't ask them how many years of schooling they had. Have they been to jail? Are they part of the street culture? Where are you sleeping tonight? We said, there's a class at 4 o'clock this afternoon. You learn how to engineer. Please come. And, it's not easy. Sometimes they came in an uncomfortable way. It doesn't matter. What we're doing is reconstructing the narrative about who they are. And what turns out, the thing I can't let go of is we asked them, how many adults have your well-being in mind? And most of them said 1. And after 6 months, if you asked them how many adults have the answer was 5, 6. And as soon as they got to 4, they went back to school.
You're so many things you're speaking to here that I wanted to bring up. But I'll remember. But we have a couple comments in here. There are some folks who wanted to participate in our conversation. I'm going to bring Tom Bohens in here. If you want to take a moment to read Tom's comment, and there's a couple others here. We got Ben next. We'll put Ben's comment up here.
Well, beautiful. Thank you, Tom. Do we have to change the name of what we call people? And I don't know. I didn't read the whole, I just read half of it. But to ask bosses and executives do that. But it's not at the core of things. because it's still treating boss and executives as if we call them what matters. Now, what's interesting to me is that many organizations are trying to shift the narrative. I was talking to a group in Pennsylvania that does senior housing, and they said, we want distributive leadership.
Mm.
And we're teams, peers, everybody impacts the people we're trying to serve. And what we offer is the delivery system for that. Small groups, not PowerPoint, not being clear about what we mean by distributive leadership, not saying, look at us, we're role models, but saying, let's engage people as peers, and let's do it with our customers.
Mm.
People over 55, why don't we get them to connect with each other and stop trying to entertain them, but ask them, what do you care? And so I think the small group methodology, the protocols for the common good, have the means and delivery for people to act out what they have in mind. And
so I guess this is very, and Ben, I will get to you next. I promise. You're different.
Can I take a break?
Sure, we'll break for a second. I'm gonna meet Peter. That's okay. So Peter did tell me he was gonna have a phone call here. So this is again the opportunity to say, come to Cincinnati. I've got the URL at the bottom, connectingforthecommongood.com. It's not a big ask in terms of what you'll get when you come here. $500 just to be here, be with Peter, 100 other folks who are going to be connecting for the common good, and it's going to be fantastic. Oh no, I don't want Peter. Peter's on there. The what I'm going to bring back here when Peter comes back on camera is he talked about again the protocols and the tools and the who's there? Oh, the protocols and the tools. And Peter's back on number one here. I'll come out. So Peter, you're when you mentioned protocols, you mentioned what's happened here. I did say a little bit about that. You brought this little book into my mind. You know that well, why would I bring that up here? Because the book, the new book especially, and the book, it's a tool for conviviality. It is a tool that brings people together, together, viviality, life. It's these tools on my screen, tool of life. And the protocols we're talking about, 6 conversations, they are tools that are easy to use. All you need to do is practice. Been around for 20 years or 25 years, more than that. Open space technology, another tool, been around for 40, 50 years and in thousands of years in the African continent. Sit in a circle, put up a bulletin board, open a marketplace, get to work. Is that so hard? No, it's not so hard. And I hope that this workshop, get to work, use the tools of conviviality to bring people together. So
the tools are all around us. It's not just our workshop. The problem is they're too simple. They say, well, when we come together, why don't we? There's 12 of us in the room, or there's 100 of us in the room. Why don't we break into groups of 3 and share with each other why it's important to be here? And you have 7 minutes, and don't be helpful. Well, that's pretty simple. Okay, you don't need a graduate degree just to do that. And if people do that, the room energy field changes. Now, sometimes I'll ask people, how valuable do you expect this gathering to be? I don't care what they say. I was sent here. I don't want to be here. As soon as you ask that question, you've renegotiated the social contract as to who is producing this experience. One question, groups of 3, 8 minutes. It's that simple. And when they come back, you say, what struck you? Now, do people want to do that? No. I didn't come for that. I came to get something done. I came to leave with a list of action steps.
Mm.
I came to see what you guys are going to do about this. I know that's what you came for. Comma, pause. Now break into groups of three, because I know if they break into groups of three, the energy field in that room will shift. And I'd never ask people, what do you expect from this? Because I'm treating them as a consumer. And so it's so simple and so inconvenient, radical. But that's what we can do. And if they say, I didn't come for that, I know you didn't. Please do it. And I many times, when I was on neighborhood council, I'd say, can't we start by having citizens talk to each other about when they first started caring about Clifton? Could we just join them? It would take us 9 minutes. And I failed. They would never be willing to do that. Instead, they talk with a police report, which tells us the world is dangerous and we need to find out how we're doing. And so none of this it's hard to do. And so what?
So what? Low pay, poor climate, safe returned out.
I love the way you keep it safe returned out. It's true about my life. That's why babies cry when they come. They know what they're getting into.
Yeah. But you can't ask the baby, well, baby, what kind of experience do you plan to have today in your life?
You can't you can't allow them to cry.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to bring a couple of questions here. Some
Thank
folks
you. I love the
have
question.
been so patient here. Dear friend, both of ours,
Ben
Roberts. Hello, Ben.
How do we measure trust enough? Is real belonging is tricky. Asking people not who they trust seems fraud. It is trust. One answer come up is a measure appreciations. Here's an example, weaving for change. But as a measurement device, and Ben is one of my heroes, so thank you for being here, Ben, is to ask people to what extent you feel you trust people in your neighborhood. I don't want them to name names, but I can say, how trusting what environment are you living in? How many of the names of children on your block do you know their names? Okay. To what extent do you join with people to keep the neighborhood clean? To what extent do you feel? And then you can ask them about, how do you feel about leadership? How do you feel about? But you ask them relational questions without naming names. And we've done it where we have citizens ask the questions. And even in the measuring of it, something shifts in their thinking about where they are. We asked a simple question: if you needed $200, who would you go? Is there somebody here you could go to ask for it?
And you don't have to name them, just yes.
And so it is tricky. And the weaving that Ben mentions, the Aspen Institute, and all of these are powerful. The other message we're trying to deliver in our methodology is that you don't have to be a hero to be a citizen. You don't have to be a hero to be an agent in creating those things that matter to you. And you said earlier that the reader creates the book. I've raised a bunch of children. I don't know who raised who. I thought I had something in mind for my children. I wish I'd just find out who the hell they are.
Well, they created you, right? You created each other.
You certainly occupied my brain for a long period of time.
Wonderful. A few more here. I've got several really getting live here. Jeanette bringing in a lovely question.
Oh, Jeanette, yes. And thank you, Jeanette. Connecting is more important. it is. Now, I like the idea of running for office, but don't get elected. So I'm working with the guy here in Cincinnati who's been in the public domain. He understands what we're doing. He's worked with planning commissions. He worked with budgeting. I said, Jeff, why don't you run for office, and we'll use your campaign to connect citizens with each other. So everybody, you're on a platform and you say, okay, Jeff, you've got 20 minutes to explain what you're doing. You say, thank you. I'd like to, but first I'd like people to talk to two people around them.
Mm-hmm.
And so
that they don't know.
But?
That they don't know, two strangers, right?
And so, but what you said is totally true, that running for office, I'm glad people do it. Anybody calls me, the first thing for money, I say, thank you for running. And it matters, but those structures aren't working. People are well-meaning, but the questions they're presented with don't take us anywhere. It's all about the money. And so run for office, thank you for caring, but let's make the campaign a methodology and means for creating the commons and getting citizens realizing that everything they came to hear what I'm going to do about, they also have agency in caring for the child and caring for the vulnerable and caring for the poor and caring for the African Americans and caring for whoever they wanted me to handle. I'll do what I can, but you're much more powerful than I
am. Love the stranger, you know.
Welcome the stranger is the essence of everything. Yeah.
Is somebody still at your door?
No, sorry.
Oh, no, that's okay.
The problem is that my garage door isn't working, and the guy could only come during this call. And so, sorry about that. I'm selfish.
Oh, no, not. You're like the least selfish person I know, so please don't do that.
Keep looking.
Okay. All right. So there's a few more here. I had to bring this one. I was going to bring this one in myself.
Hello, Jack. These are friends of mine. This is a reunion.
Yeah, I think we got some more coming here too. So yes.
I heard that sentence from Werner Erhard, all transformational linguistic. And that's why the word narrative is so powerful. And thank you, Jack. And once I believe that, then it gives me something I can hold on to, that we can change the nature of what the questions do. And what the common good protocols do is they change the nature of the conversation. And let's only have conversations that take us somewhere.
Yeah.
Not conversations about what they're doing, what they should be doing. That's why I wrote a column called Research Causes Cancer in Rats. And I don't know about the column, but I love the title. And the notion is that the conversation we have, what's wrong with you, doesn't take, it's useful. It's science, the methodology of science doesn't impact how we live day to day with each other. It's good for science. I'm glad they do research on cancer, but we can't use that as a methodology for the common good. The methodology of common good is to say, what are the conversations we can have that take us somewhere? And there are always ones that people having the conversations have some agency in what they care most about.
What strikes me there is the truth about there's the scientific mode, and the mode is a mode of analysis. How do you analyze? You take stuff apart, look at the little things. What's the problem with that thing? Treat that problem. Treat, and just hope that the problem goes away, as opposed to, well, the relation. Instead of bringing things apart, if you bring things together, you're talking about the relationship, the magnetism, the space in between, and the energy to go. Somewhere.
Yes, you can in physical things. I want the analytical approach to building a bridge, to telling me whether my heart is a problem. Okay, I'm old enough that I am the target audience for a lot of people. But when it comes to the common good when it comes to our social capital, when it comes to caring and raising a child, making a living, being safe, longer term health, that scientific method is not powerful. We've done 12 studies in Cincinnati on the existence of racism.
Does it exist? Did we find that out?
Yes, that's what they found. Yes, we have a problem. What do you plan to do about it? I think we need further study. And so for social world, culture, who we are together, the analytical process is much less useful than it is for the, healthcare profession and building bridges and buildings and all the stuff that science has helped us with.
Well, science has helped us build a world. The dead world of man-made stuff is important. It has served us for millennia, right? And the tools of building the man-made world are super great. They're very efficient, very productive. And especially the large language model tools that are so great at creating language, and it's nice to delegate the responsibility of creating the language of the future to a machine. Very convenient, you know, um, but it doesn't speak to the humanity of creating.
Right, right.
Oh,
I mean, it does make a difference. Like the printing press was huge. The telegraph was huge. I could actually communicate with people how to be on my site. The wheel, whoever invented the wheel, I'm very grateful. But it doesn't end wars. It doesn't bring peace. It doesn't bring peace of mind. It's just extremely useful. That's why to talk about building social capital or a common good, first you have to deal with my willingness for inconvenience.
And space and silence and slow down and scale is not the point. Speed kills. I like to say that speed kills. Slow saves. And that's
it commodifies us. It doesn't kill us. I'll still be alive.
Yeah.
Into a commodity, and AI is just today's version. The wheel and the printing press was much more radical than AI. AI is just it's pure convenience. I can go to a meeting now. I don't have to listen because it'll summarize what happened when I'm.
And we don't even have to go.
But it's all what we're talking about is how do we be together that we're not commodified. We're not objects, we're subjects, not objects. And our language acts as if I'm creating. Now, can I achieve the things I thought I could? Doesn't matter. Okay. The fact we made the effort together and learn to trust each other quickly, focus on things that matter. And we have the means to do that. Everybody on this call is a connector.
Yes.
People who don't believe in connection don't show up for silliness like this.
Folly. It would be folly.
The point is that how do we bring the connecting skills like Jack and Ben into unusual places? I always felt the invitations from unexpected places were so special. I've said yes to everything. Weird. CIA hired me once. I went. And so now our check is to bring these connecting protocols, networks, all the things that people on this call are giving their lives to, and realize that what we're doing is more important than we imagined.
Yeah, we don't the technology and those tools of technology will develop. They'll develop pretty fast on their own. But what we are sitting here now, we're talking about the social technologies that have been neglected for a long time that are continuing to be defunded. So depending on the folks to fund those things is not going to happen. Besides, we are Paleolithic humans living in medieval institutions with godlike technology, right? So we got to do that evolutionary advancement with the social tools that we have.
That's
That
a beautiful sentence. Wait. That sentence is beautiful. We are. You said we're paleontological.
well, it's I'm borrowing it from a guy named
No, you don't, I
Tristan
don't care.
Harris.
I love that.
It,
Now,
it
we're
it's
not living in medieval institutions. We're living in enlightened institutions. So we're
oh
reading
well that's
about the Enlightenment period. I
well
think, therefore, I am, which is really, we're organized for that. And I think what we're talking about is something beyond that.
yeah. And this it's yeah. I also blame Descartes for a lot of this mess that we're in.
I think, therefore, I am. We have conversations, therefore, we are.
And it has we have built these it's we have Paleolithic brains, medieval institutions, and godlike technology. How's that going to work out? And
It's
the
going great.
fan flippin' tastic, you know. Catherine Carroll has a comment here. I want to bring Catherine in. I don't know if you know.
Please. Wow. That's beautiful. A beautiful network support through my advocacy. I'm proud to be part of it. Exactly. And so, Catherine, you're reporting on your own transformation, and a lot of people with children with disabled. There's a book done on that asks them, aside from people that serve you, aside from other disabled people, how many friends do you have? And the answer is very, very few. And so people like Catherine are realizing that her daughter's not defined by her abilities. She's defined by her humanity. And so she's created a support network of people that she'll know she's loved and is valuable. And it's so powerful. Thank you so much.
And that's a story. I don't know if Catherine knows of Tim Vogt here, Starfire in Cincinnati, wrote this beautiful book. Again, one of those books that changed my life too. It's called Who's in Your Life. It's not the 8 people who are your family who are betrothed by that. It's not the 20 people who are your paid caregivers or the 60 people who are identified and named as disabled people. It's the 2 people you have in your life
Yeah,
who care about you as a human being just because you're a human being.
yeah, but there's nothing. The people who support you are beautiful people.
Well,
But
sure.
what Tim did was he said, well, instead of funding more workshops to help people, we'll, if you're a family and you get together with 2 neighbors to make the place better, we'll fund that. And so he treated connecting to the neighbors, connecting and being useful as important as the workshop historically they've been doing. And just that thought, it's not to take anything away from the loving, caretaking professionals and support people. It's just saying that and that's what Catherine is saying, that it's the people around her daughter that are extremely powerful in healing and dealing with the fact that she's not defined by her disability. It's not all she is.
She's a beautiful human being because she is a human being. And again, I come from. There's a story here that came up out of David Cayley wrote this book, The Rivers North of the Future, about Ivan Illich, and it tells the story of the Good Samaritan, which I had not really heard about as that much, but the Illich twists it a little bit, and he says the corruption of the best is the worst, and that meaning that the best is the Good Samaritan seeing in the wounded Jew, just seeing God as seeing the incarnation of the Almighty in that person. And then as soon as that relationship becomes turned into a service transaction, that's the worst. We have the best of this beautiful, the
You're
folly of
amazing.
love.
You are amazing, Ryan.
But it just these stories are out there, and they're there to touch us, and they are inspiring to me, you are inspiring to me, and I hope that the new book will inspire many to purchase it and accumulate much wealth in the coffers of a person who cares about the common good. That's you and all of you out there. Um, buy the book, please. Buy the book.
Well,
Yes.
I would say listen to Ryan what he has to say. You're the way you capture things, the way you connect things and see their importance is miraculous. Just okay. Just being with you is inspiring. Period. Period.
Oof. Wow. Well, it was a gift. I'll name the gift of you being here, the
Just
gift of your work, and that I wish to activate the common good.
you are.
I want to be the book here. Everyone, and those of you who are out there, I love you to make the book
No,
and
you
these
don't.
books in your life.
Ryan, stop that.
Oh, come on.
You're the book. For you to bring Kaylee and Illich into this conversation about the Good Samaritan, well, that's amazing. And what Illich did is he helped us rethink, reimagine things that we took for granted. And he was amazing. You know, he was a Catholic priest, and in Cuernavaca, when Catholic do-gooders wanted to go to Latin America, they had to go through Cuernavaca, and his job was to discourage them.
He got kicked out of the church for that, right?
Well, whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you so much, Ryan. You're a gift.
Thank you. Well, we do have one more comment from here, and I know.
I like the comments of what I came for.
Yeah. So from Ben also.
Co-fund eco community. Yes. The seventh conversation in addition to the sixth outline. Wonderful. So go find out what Ben's doing because it's got to be beautiful. And the notion of the conversations is any conversation. These are conversational domains. They're not specific questions. And the beauty is what Ben is perfect about is that the questions bring us together and the answers keep us apart. And it's not like this. The conversation domains and trust is whatever conversation you hold that you bring people into in your presence, as long as it's a question and there's no prescriptions allowed, takes us somewhere. And so we have to create the questions that matter most to us. And thank you.
I would like to ask you a couple questions.
Okay.
The first one, is there anything you wish to bring into our space that you did not have the opportunity to do today?
No, my mind these days is on the veil, and how do we stop living into the myths of progress, the myths of development, the myths of being productive? But no, I came here to be with you, Ryan. That was a blessing, really. Just the way you think, the way you understand these things, the way you weave them together. If I'm an excuse for you to do that, happy to be of service.
Well, thank you. I liked hearing that very much.
Yeah.
To tell me more. So I don't. So this next question may seem like a downer. This is the coda to the
Don't
tune.
advertise it. Just ask it.
I'll ask. What's the crossroads that you are at?
Exactly. Well, I'm trying to stop thinking about my future and saying the hardest thing for me to is accept the gifts that I am and just put my attention there. So I don't know where to give my attention. And that's what worries me, is that I'll be distracted. And I'm waiting for myself to quit whining. When I think about every age I've been at, I had something to say about it. So just Peter. Also, I learned from Al-Anon that the best thing is to keep your mouth shut and do it often. So my crossroads is, do I have the capacity to not have something to say about everything that comes my way? And a lot of the questions have been answered for me. Have I done something useful? Could I make a living? Could I find people to care about? Could I raise a child? And so now I'm saying, so what's the question now? For a while, I always felt that I was given life and given an invoice that I had to pay back the privilege of being born. And now I feel invoice is paid. I just wish I could believe that. And that's what I struggle with. Have I done enough? Am I enough? And mostly my life, the answer has been no. And so I'm wondering what will it take for me to say enough and then just show up and be with people like you.
Oof. And I asked, and there's another question. I know I ask a question often. I was going to ask you this, but I think you hit it beautifully. The question I like to ask people is, if your life's work, if the work that you are here to do could end the suffering of one person, what would that suffering be?
Exactly.
And you've named it beautifully as the isolation of economic and social isolation.
Am I enough?
Am I enough? The self-doubt, which came from I asked a question of a friend this morning, and that's what she said. Self-doubt. That's suffering. That don't doubt that you are capable and that you are a possibility. And you're beautiful. Every one of you out there is beautiful too.
You can see that. I can't. I'm jealous.
Oh yeah.
All right.
All right, man. Well, I get to hold you in the background for a minute or two after this. Thank you to every one of you out there who has engaged in the comments and who has shared your spirit with us in the now. Thank you for the precious gift of your time and attention. And Peter, you're beautiful. I hope, my hope that you will come back here and we'll be able to jam again.
Only if you ask me.
Well, there you go. See you later, everybody. See you soon. End of stream is happening.